On today's show, Lawrence Frank had a press conference to talk about the season and detail what he could be thinking going in to the offseason. What were the main takeaways from the interview? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, just finished my 20th season as a Clipper fan, and have my own basketball-centric YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, which I've been doing for 5 years and 3 years right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So today we're going to be talking about Lawrence Frank's press conference that he had to address the media after our season has now ended. And I'm going to be talking about some of the main takeaways from the session. First off, what he detailed about his plans going into next season, and then the general mood of it all, and the honest realities. So beginning with the general consensus, or not the general, well, the general consensus takeaway, I should say, from his comments were that we are running it back. He was talking about how Kawhi only played 37 games and, all we need are some minor tweaks and, we got to figure out James Harden's contract situation because he does have a player option, but he could opt out of it to try to get a new contract. So we got to address those things. But he said that Norman Powell, Ivica Zubac, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden on the court together were 21-5, which, that's a great number. At the end of the day, though, and he detailed it, we were in great form heading into the playoffs, but we lost. And he put it down to the same thing I said, slim margins. You know what I'm saying? In one of those episodes, that we had an Aaron Gordon alley-oop. We had a game one in which we were right there, probably should have brought it home and didn't. And then as a result, we ended up playing a game 7 over there. But it came to an end, you know what I'm saying, in the first round. And I think depending on how the Denver Nuggets do, it will make it a little bit more clear how far off from a championship we are. But the general consensus seems to be, or the general takeaway was, we're running it back. Kawhi Leonard is going into the offseason healthy for the first time since 2020, and obviously the next year was one of his better years. Definitely his best year as a Clipper, I would say. All-NBA, and of course the playoffs. He was on a generational run. But he's not getting any younger. That's the only thing. But I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Kawhi Leonard could come back, healthy offseason. We get more games out of him. We still load manage him. I don't know how many games that would be because the 2023-24 season, we didn't even load manage him. He played back-to-backs. He went all in. We tried a different approach. So we're probably going to go back to load managing him. And you would hope that he could get to, 60 games or 58 games, something like that. And yeah, there is a much higher chance of a better regular season record with that. I just don't know if, you keep James Harden, you keep Norman Powell, you keep Ivica Zubac. And I think Norman Powell is probably, obviously, given that he only has one more year on his deal, the most tradable of those contracts. And because he could help a lot of teams just with his instant offense. But you bring those 4 back, probably surround him with Derek Jones to start games. That's a pretty good starting lineup. But you're still having Kawhi Leonard play the 4. You know what I'm saying? Or you can try to put Norman Powell on the bench, make a trade, try to get a 4, or pick up somebody in free agency. But is that guy good enough to be? Because here's the real question. Championship team. There's a lot of unprovens when you're trying to build a championship team in terms of the guys you have. Probably most of them have not won a championship. So when you look at the roster, the big debate is, for me, it should start at the top. Do you think Kawhi Leonard can still lead a team to a championship? And it seems that a large majority of people disagree with me on this and think that he still can. I think because of the limitations that he has in terms of regular season availability, it makes it hard to get a good seed and develop the habits needed to have championship-like chemistry in terms of not team camaraderie, but actual on-court situations, knowing the pecking order down the stretch and that sort of thing. Not saying that every close game it's going to be the same guy getting the ball, but I do prefer, and I do think more teams that win championships have a go-to guy down the stretch. Of course, if someone's got it going on, feed the hot hand. But there are plenty of games, especially in the playoffs, when the offense is bogged down and you have to kind of just go to your bread and butter, whatever that may be. And this season, our bread and butter was Harden, Zoo, pick and roll. And if the answer is that Harden, Zoo, pick and roll produces better offense than Kawhi isolation, then it's hard to go against that data and go with more Kawhi Leonard. However, in the playoffs, I think the only thing I like more about Kawhi isolation over a Harden, Zoo, pick and roll is that you have a better chance of your best player getting the shot up. Simple as. And it's a very clear thing that we had an issue in the playoffs with Kawhi not being able to get shots up enough. And just getting double teamed when you have the ball is not an excuse, because every star gets double teamed, and it happens. And you of course, guys got to knock down shots. There's no debate about that. Our role players did not bring the necessary shooting needed to get us past this series as the team without home court advantage. No doubt about it. But we knew with some of these guys who were great shooters and who were not. Derrick Jones Jr. has always been a suspect three-point shooter, and he's gotten better. Chris Dunn, that's what's kept him off of, he was a top 10 pick, Clipper Nation. He was a top 10 pick. I forget exactly what number that's. I'm saying top 10, but I think it was like 6, 7, or 8. But anyway, we didn't have the shooters, and we have a good roster, though. That's the thing. Fact of the matter is, I believe Kawhi and Harden just needed to be better. Norman Powell needed to be better, but I'm not super sold on Norman Powell in terms of how big of a role he has on this team. It might be just a little too big, given that he has limitations in terms of playmaking, ball handling, and defending. You know what I'm saying? And rebounding, and all those things matter when you want to win a championship. And I think Norm is, he was an 8th man in that Toronto Raptors championship rotation, but he could be a 6th man for this rotation, and a great one, the best one in the league. And that's fine, in my opinion. I mean, of course, he's going to have to accept that. And he was advocating for being a starter when he was playing that 6-man role throughout the years with us, but might be best for the team. But we got to go out there and get someone. So the general takeaway is that we're running it back, and we're going to go try to improve this roster with what we have. I think Harden also should be a second option in terms of scoring. That was another issue for us. I think at his age and his just given his shot variety or lack of it, teams can force the ball out of his hands strategically in ways that make it hard for him to be your second best scorer right now in terms of if you want to win a title. I don't think people quite understand how hard it is to win titles. And Clipper Nation, if you only watch the Clippers, then you probably do. If you do only watch the Clippers, then you probably only do know non-championship basketball. And would prove the stereotype of people saying, well, you're a Clipper fan. What do you know about winning championships? But if you are a Clipper fan that loves basketball and you see what these teams that win have, you understand year in, year out, no matter what era you look at. And I don't like this conversation that, you need depth now. It used to not be about depth. Since when? First of all, it always starts at the top. Always. But of course you need depth. If you don't have a deep bench, you better have an insanely good starting lineup. And teams like the Heatles, the Miami Heat with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, and the Golden State Warriors. First of all, that Golden State Warriors team had Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston coming off the bench. So if anybody wants to say they weren't deep, that's crazy. Because in the playoffs, that rotation shrinks to 8 guys, maybe sometimes even 7 at the finals. Maximum 9. That Miami Heat team had a good starting lineup, and then you had Norris Cole was decent at the time. Okay, we don't want to do that revisionist history where we act like guys because they didn't have a great career. That fool won 2 rings his first 2 years. But, they had guys like Shane Battier, Mike Miller, who had big stretches in those games. Mike Miller was taller than people realize. So I don't like this notion that you just started needing depth. You've always needed depth, and you always need a well-rounded roster to win chips. But I do think it does always start at the top. And I would like to have James Harden slot down to the role that we kind of brought him to the Clippers with the intention of being, which was third scorer, primary ball handler. Now, you might be thinking, didn't you just say that you can't win a title with James Harden as the primary ball handler? Yes, but the Clippers don't believe that. So they're running it back. I still think you could be a great team with James Harden as your primary ball handler. I mean, this guy's the playoff machine. He gets to the playoffs. So anyway, that's the theme. They're running it back. But coming up, going to be talking about the general tone of Lawrence Frank. Was he content or did he have issues with the way it finished? I got to tell you a little something about DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right. So the Clippers and their president of basketball operations, Lawrence Frank, addressing the media after a slightly disappointing first-round exit to the Denver Nuggets in 7 games after a very fun season. And that's something that Lawrence Frank touched on a lot. And I mean, look, Clipper Nation, I am not trying to be a downer or anything like that. But I just want the fans to be somewhat like see through what's happening here. And the fact of the matter is, Lawrence Frank's comments were of a very content man, an organization that feels extremely proud of what they did this season. And for honestly, given everything we went through in terms of your best player only playing 37 games, they should feel that way. They absolutely should feel that way, right? I just think it was, you would have thought we made it to the conference finals or something, though. Like, it was so positive, and it's like, the tone in which he spoke about running it back and how we just need Kawhi to have more games and we'll be fine. Like, you know, more chemistry within the team, maybe go out and get a guy or two. Like, that's just not, for me, that's not enough. If you guys think that's enough, I mean, well, we'll see in a year. Again, I don't want to be wrong about my own team, but we'll see in a year. No, I mean, in a year, we should still be alive if we have enough. But it's just, how do we know Kawhi's even going to be healthy again next year? Like, it's just a tough conversation to have. Now, here's the thing. The problem is you can't do anything about it. That's the thing. They can't do anything about it. We don't have the draft capital to try to rebuild. And what he said, Lawrence Frank, was, and we know this, Ballmer, the first time we ever heard this was when he was talking in front of the fans at the Forum, giving tours to the Intuit Dome, and I recorded a moment and roasted it on Twitter, and I think I was the only person that, like, because media weren't at that event, I don't think, but I posted that moment where he said, we are never going to tank, we always want to be competitive. The issue with that is, I think there's a lot of delusional basketball people out there that don't quite understand what it takes to win a title, and I think this team is still not as close as people think. We are old. And there was somebody, I don't know who it was, female reporter, female journalist, asked him about youth on this team. Credit to you, whoever that is. I don't want to, mistake if I get the wrong one, because I generally do know the people that cover the Clippers, but I don't want to get your name wrong if it is someone else or get a little mistaken identity. But she asked about youth. Can we get this team younger? And Lawrence Frank had a very honest answer, and it's the truth. He's like, well, when you're always trying to be competitive, basically, I'll give you the non-sugar coated version. Basically, when you're in win now mode, you better be a really good young player to crack this rotation. And if you're not, then you're not going to get your chance. So for people that want a youth movement, the problem is having guys like Jordan Miller or Kobe Brown play extended minutes might not be best for your team when you're trying to win a championship now with dudes like James Harden and Kawhi Leonard who are about to be 34 and 36. So if you're trying to win now, it's not time to develop Jordan Miller or Kobe Brown. That's the harsh reality for people that want younger players. Now, of course, you're going to say, but dude, they're good enough. Clearly, the coaching staff doesn't believe so. And they spend more time with them than us. And if I'm being real, Kobe Brown has not shown any. Who are you taking out of the rotation? Amir Coffey wasn't going to get subbed out. You're going to take Jordan Miller over Ben Simmons? I mean, this guy was still a number one pick in the draft. He's 6'10". Or 6, I don't even know how tall he is. He could be 6'9", 6'10" one day, and the next day he's 6'11". Doesn't matter. He still won't look at the basket regardless. But I just think I wouldn't put my stock in the Clippers playing young guys, and he's telling you that. So it's a tough middle ground to be in. And at the end of the day, the Clippers are a business and an entertainment industry. And the NBA is an entertainment industry. And Steve Ballmer wants to keep fans invested by being competitive. And for them, they love this season. I mean, it started out slow in terms of attendance, but then we ended up selling out a ton of games when Kawhi was healthy. We ended up getting a good record. Fans love the arena. But here's the thing. That allure of the new arena will fade at some point, and we're still going to enjoy it just as much, but just having a new arena isn't going to excuse the product on the floor. Now, the thing is, objectively, for next year, keeping guys like Harden, Zoo, and Kawhi is the better product for us winning games in the short term. Of course, they might know deep down that we can't win a championship. Winning a championship with this crew is far-fetched, but there's nothing they can really do about it. They made their bed with the Kawhi trade, the Paul George trade, which is essentially the Paul George and Kawhi trade, and the Harden trade. We don't have picks, and unless you really try to set the reset button and trade Kawhi, you're not, and are you going to even get picks for Kawhi? So that's something that they probably are struggling with and understand as well. So there's nothing they can do except for hype up and give the fans hope that, yeah, we run it back next year. Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthier. He's going into the offseason healthy for the first time since 2020. Guess what happened going into that next year? We went to the conference finals, had our best season in franchise history. But he is 5 years older? So that matters. He's not going to say that. But that's the thing you want to sell if you're Lawrence Frank and Steve Ballmer to Clipper fans is that, yeah, Kawhi is going to be way healthier. We're already a great team. Another year of this crew. Continuity is important. You kind of build the team around Kawhi getting more shots throughout the year instead of the, Norman Powell, Zoo Harden pick and roll thing, even though you still want a lot of Harden Zoo pick and roll. And then you build off of the feeding Zoo the ball and try to get him to be an all-star this next season. Get a piece or two. And here we go, right back in the mix. We could get to like a second round, I think, with that. But championship. And again, it all comes down to another year of if Kawhi is healthy. And now we know that if Kawhi is healthy, it doesn't guarantee anything. Or guarantee a ring, at least. So the general consensus for me, or I keep saying that word. I should stop saying that. But the general takeaway is that Lawrence Frank was content. The organization loved this season. And look, I had a great time too. But the direction, they're not going to say that we're stuck and we have nowhere to go. But to me, that's what it is. But coming up, going to talk about Game 7. There was all this, we did great, all this, amazing positivity. But was there a moment of negativity in addressing Game 7? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, so the Clippers, one thing that you can say about this 2024-25 team was that they were a resilient ball club that fought hard and very rarely mailed it in. And that comes down to our defensive identity. And Lawrence Frank said that we want this team, this Clippers organization, this franchise to be a team that has a defensive identity. And with this coaching staff, with Jeff Van Gundy alongside Ty, seems like we're going to stay in that direction. If Jeff Van Gundy doesn't get another job offer, who knows? Jeff Van Gundy might not want to be a head coach anymore. It's not like he can't get a job. You know what I'm saying? He probably can get a head coaching job if he wants. But it seems, for those of you, by the way, there's a ton of people in the comments and on socials and maybe in real life that think that the first thing that needs to happen is Ty Lue needs to get canned. And let me just say this. Obviously, I don't think that he's the problem, but I wouldn't mind going a different direction. I just think there are more problems than Ty Lue. Ty Lue is not the reason that James Harden had a stinker in Game 7. And Ty Lue's not the reason that Kawhi Leonard missed that many games either. And Ty Lue's not the reason that we didn't have a backup big at all. It's actually Lawrence Frank, but he probably couldn't find anybody. It wasn't like backup bigs were growing off trees. He got one, Drew Eubanks, but he's not good enough. Now, the thing is, from the tone of the interview, and of course he could do something different, or of the press conference, Ty Lue's not going anywhere. It seems as though, he did a good job with the team, objectively speaking. I know everybody wants to argue that, but in the regular season, he did a good job. We can definitely question some of his decisions in the playoffs. What is the word I'm looking for? Especially the lob at the end of Game 4, having that lineup out there with three guys you don't consider defensive players in Norman Powell, Bogdanovic, and James Harden, just because they'd been on that run together. That was very questionable. And then in Game 1, I haven't talked about this enough, but we left Ivica Zubac out for a little too long, and Kawhi Leonard as well. And then Game 4, we went with Chris Dunn for too long. I think throughout the season we saw too much love to Chris Dunn, even though he was amazing, but just the lack of shooting can hurt us sometimes. But the one thing I will say is that Lawrence Frank addressed Game 7, and the words that he used were the same words that I used. Uncharacteristic, embarrassing. We saw a better Clipper team than that from a fight perspective all season long. And look, there's the altitude. There's a long series with an aging team. But you go out like that, it's kind of embarrassing, for the fans. After what Steve Ballmer did to bring so many fans out there, you didn't even put up a fight. Honestly, it's not even about the fans at that point. It's like, what about you? You care to go out sorry? And look, there's a bunch of X's and O's things and stuff that actually happened. And it's not just they didn't play. They didn't show up. They didn't try. They didn't care. Of course, I think they care. But we just looked deflated in that third quarter. And the attention to detail has to be better. Some players will say it wasn't the lack of trying. It was a lack of focus. And that is locking in mentally. And there's several moments in the beginning of that third quarter. Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, miscommunications. And they're two of our best defenders. So I expect better. So at least Lawrence Frank didn't make any excuses for that. But it just leaves a little sour taste in my mouth because this Clipper team, they really represented us well this season. They came out with the right intensity, and in almost every game, they showed up and tried. And I know in an 82-game schedule, with how hard it is to defend these days, it is hard to show up for every game. Defensively, probably harder than ever before. But at the same time, I sound very disrespectful in a way to the past players when I say that, because despite the running around more in the half court defensively, all the technology and stuff that has made it life easier for players and athletes now with the money in the game, just incomparable to when, I don't even want to say when Ty Lue played, but when Jeff Van Gundy was coaching or something like that. So it's a balance, but I just my standard is lowered in terms of that, but it's because it's hard to guard, right? It's so hard to guard. So you are asked to do more defensively as a team these days with all the shooting. And we had defensive minded guys that came out with that energy all night long because that's what they're getting paid to do, is bring that defensive mentality and the defensive skills, the lateral ability, the ability to rotate. That how much do we want to play defense every possession? Chris Dunn, Derrick Jones, they brought that. But in the game 7, just was just embarrassing. It felt like we just gave up and threw in the towel. And in game 5, our effort level wasn't that good either. And for a team that did such a good job defensively all season, and I know Denver's a special offense, we struggled, and it was tough. That game 4 was right there. But you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. The age-old proverb continues: Go Clippers.